Welcome back to Koine Corner. Over the last several weeks, we have been looking at Luke chapter 15, where we saw the tax collectors and sinners coming to Jesus to hear him, and the Pharisees and scribes grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners, and he even eats with them." Jesus then launched into a cycle of three parables, starting with the parable of the lost sheep, followed by the parable of the lost coin, and today we begin the parable of a lost and found son. Let's dive in. It's Luke chapter 15, verse 11, and this is my translation. "And he said, a certain man was having two sons." Was having sounds weird, doesn't it? Well, it's an imperfect verb, and I've translated it very literally just to communicate that thought. What he's saying, what Luke is saying as he writes this, is that it's not that a man had two sons in the past, it's that he was continually having them. It's a man with two sons. But there's something really interesting about this parable and how it starts compared to how the other two start. So let's take a look at some an interesting little particle, okay? Here we have in the top line, the beginning of the parable of the lost sheep. Tis anthropos ex humon. What man from among you? He follows that up with the parable of the lost coin that starts, or tis gune, what woman having 10 coins, etc. Now let's get down to the third line, the third phrase, and see how he starts the third parable. Anthropos tis eken duo huios, a certain man having two sons. So this is really important that we see. I'm going to ask you to go back up to the first line in the koine part, not the transliterated part, and see the tis, the first word. Notice that it's accented. There's an accent over the iota. Go down to the second line, tis gune. There's an accent over the iota in the tis. Now let's go down to the third set. Anthropos tis eken. There's not an accent on the tis. The accented tis is an interrogative, who or what. The unaccented tis indicates specificity. A certain man has two sons. So why does this matter? What is he trying to tell us? The persons in the first and second parable, what man from among you having 100 sheep, if he loses one, he keeps on searching until he should find it. Then when he does, he puts it on his shoulders, rejoicing, comes home, says to the friends and neighbors, "Rejoice with me, I found my lost sheep." He's saying anybody would act this way. Similarly, any woman having 10 drachma and losing one lights a lamp, searches, sweeps the floor, keeps methodically searching until she finds it, then calls the friends and neighbors. This is what any normal person would do. But when we get to the third parable, and we'll see this throughout a couple of weeks, the conduct of the man with two sons is very much not what any person would be expected to do. So what does he tell us? He says, what man from among you, anybody would behave this way. What woman from among you, any woman would behave this way. But there's this certain man with two sons. And he gets thrown into a set of circumstances that are somewhat similar to a lost sheep and a lost coin, but powerfully different. And he does not behave in the anticipated way. All that from whether or not there's an accent on the tis. Let's carry on. In verse 12, it says, "And the younger of them said to the father, 'Father, give to me the part of the property or estate which falls to me.' And he divided the livelihood or the estate to them." Again, my translation. So, sheep wander, coins can be misplaced, but the younger of this man's two sons is actively working an exit plan. He wants out of here, and he doesn't want to go out of here empty-handed, does he? Let's take a look in Koine at what he says to his dad. Dos moi. So that's a great phrase because it starts with an imperative. It's in the emphatic position. First word, give to me. Give to me, to epibalon meros, the part falling to me, tes ousios, of the property, of the estate. So give to me the part of the property of the estate that's falling to me. Whatever I should expect to get from you when you die, I would like you to give it to me now. That's a pretty bold statement. If I said that to my dad, he would probably interpret that as me saying drop dead. But I don't know about this symbolic certain man with two sons in the parable. But here and now, as a man with two sons, I would be pretty uncomfortable if the younger one came to me and said, whatever I might expect to have fall to me from you when you're gone, give it to me now. I don't want to wait. Then let's look at what the dad, what is said about the dad. Hode dielen autois ton bion. But he divided to them, plural. He didn't just give the younger son his part. He divided to them, plural, not the ousios that was asked for, but ton bion. Why does this matter? The kid asked for ousios, property, the property of the estate, but the dad divided ton bion to both of them, the livelihood. Yes, it is the property, but it's more than just the property. It's how this family lives. He broke up to them the stuff that represents the life of this family, the culmination of generations. And he doesn't do it upon his death. He does it upon the petulant demand of his younger son. And he breaks up not ousios only. Surely the ousios is contained within the bion, but he breaks up ton bion, the livelihood of the family, and gives the pieces to the two sons. Interestingly, in this time and place, the older son we would expect to receive 2/3 of the inheritance, and the younger son 1/3. It's not a 50-50 split. They're not even partners. The elder son is the heir. The younger son inherits less. Let us carry on to verse 13. And after not many days, after gathering everything together, presumably to sell, to liquidate, the younger son went abroad unto a distant region, and there he squandered his property, living extravagantly. Again, my translation. So he takes quick action. We're told he gathers all of his stuff together, presumably to hold an auction, a sale. He needs to liquidate this. If he's going to travel to a far-off place, he needs to liquidate this inheritance, this wealth. Part of it could be property, part of it could be livestock, part of it could be equipment. We don't have a way of knowing because we're not told what the father's business is. But what we can be fairly certain of is that it's not sitting around in liquid cash that he can just hand the son cash. If that were the case, he wouldn't need to gather everything together first, would he? So synagogon, after gathering his stuff together to liquidate it, we're told that he departs for a foreign land, a distant country, and where he squanders his property, his ousios, living extravagantly. There's two key things that we need to look at in this verse. Let's look at the first phrase in Koine, apodemesen eis koran makron. He went abroad unto a distant country. There's the word here, apodemesen, is critically important for us. It's an aorist verb. It comes from apodemeo. There are a lot of words for depart. And this is an unusual one because apodemeo is from apo, from, demos, people, from people, right? Democracy is rule by the people. Demography is an accounting of people groups. Apodemeo is leaving your own people. You're unpeopling from them. And that's what the young man did. After he gathered his stuff and liquidated it, he put the money in his pocket or in his pouch, and he left his people unto a distant land. Think about that. You're leaving your own people, you're leaving your own place with its customs, with its God, and going off to a distant land, to a foreign place with foreign people of foreign ways and foreign gods. This guy, this young man, is separating himself from his family and everything they believe, their history, their roots, their culture, their religion. He's going off to a different kind of people in a different kind of place. Very important for us to recognize that. He could have just said Elthane. He went, but he didn't. Right? So he gives us this very rich word. He unpeopled himself, leaving his people behind, and went off to a distant country. Then we get to the last part of the verse where we're told that he squandered his wealth, he squandered his inheritance, his property, living extravagantly. Let's take a look. Diascorpisen tein ousian autou zon esotos. Diascorpisen, he squandered. Well, this word for squandered, if we were talking about livestock, it would mean to scatter or to disperse a flock. If we're talking about soldiers, it would mean we were deploying them on a battlefield. If we're talking about a banquet, it would mean that we were laying out the elements of the banquet on the table, so all the parts were where they belonged. It's a word that's about spreading things out. Okay? So that's really important, because what did he do with his inheritance, with ousian autou, his property, his inheritance? He squandered it. He spread it around. And how did he spread it around? We're told zon asotos. Sotos is savingly, an adverb for saving. Asotos with the alpha privative is in an unsaving manner. He spread his wealth around. He squandered it. How? By living in an unsaving manner. He went hog wild, pardon the pun, hog wild. He went hog wild willy-nilly with his wealth that he acquired when he demanded his inheritance, off in this foreign place where he's the outsider, and he has burned through the money. It's gone. Very vivid image. He spread it around in this reckless, unrestrained living. He lived it up till it was gone. Pretty magnificent. So let's pause and think about the context for a moment. We're back to the beginning, the first 3 verses of Luke chapter 15. We had the tax collectors and the sinners, we had the Pharisees and the scribes, and we had Jesus. Who's who so far in this story? If you had to pick one, is the young man, the young son, is he the tax collectors and the sinners? Is he the Pharisees and the scribes? Or is he Jesus? Pretty obvious, right? For the context that set up the chain of parables, the cycle of parables, the younger son represents the tax collectors and the sinners who are out in the world living wildly, burning through their inheritance. Right? Good stuff. So before we wrap up today, I just want to read the next 3 verses quickly so we see the effect of this young man's choices, and then we'll come back to him next week. So this is verses 14 through 16, and this is from the ESV. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. Remember, where he comes from, pigs are unclean. And he was looking to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. He sunk so low that he's not only working with pigs, he's willing to eat the pig food because it's the best that he can get his hands on. A young man in dire straits. Why? Not because he wandered, not because he was misplaced, but because he actively pursued a plan to leave behind his home, his family, his people, his culture, his religion, and go off and live wildly. That's where we're at. That's where we're about a third of the way through the parable of the prodigal son. And a week from today, we'll pick up the next part when the young man comes to himself in the pig pen. And we will see where we go from there. I hope this has been good for you. If you didn't see the previous parts of the series, please go back and watch those. And if you did, share them, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, Charis Kai Reina Humin, grace and peace to you.